Okay, so get this. Your water bill, it could like triple in the next 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, sounds crazy, right?
Yeah.
But that's the reality facing Hastings residents. And we're diving straight into the city reports, all those documents today, to help you understand why these increases are happening and what it all means for you.
Sounds intense.
Yeah, and the craziest part is Hastings actually has some of the lowest water rates in the metro right now.
Oh,
So
whoa.
buckle up because we're going to unpack some serious information with our expert today.
Looking forward to it.
So I'm ready to get into the details.
Oh.
What's the big picture here? Like, what's going on?
Well, it really boils down to the EPA,
Okay.
the Environmental Protection Agency.
Right.
They recently lowered the acceptable levels of PFAS in drinking water, and that's really sent cities across the country scrambling to comply.
Okay, yeah. PFAS, those forever chemicals, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They've been in the news a lot lately.
Yeah, and for good reason. They're incredibly persistent in the environment, and they don't break down easily.
Right.
And they've been linked to some pretty serious health problems, so the EPA is cracking down.
Okay, so Hastings has to make some major changes to meet these new standards. What does that actually involve for them?
Well, they've got a big task ahead. They need to build 3 new water treatment plants.
3.
3, yeah, by April 2029.
Wow.
Which is a pretty tight deadline.
Yeah.
Each plant can take up to 18 months to build.
Oh, wow.
So the clock is ticking.
Okay, so 3 new plants in just a few years. That sounds massive.
It is.
And I'm guessing those plants don't come cheap.
You guessed right.
Yeah.
These new regulations, they mean big costs for Hastings.
Right.
And those costs are inevitably going to trickle down to residents in the form of higher water bills.
Okay, so let's talk numbers.
Okay.
When can residents expect to see these rate increases, and how much are we talking?
So the first increase hits in January 2025. That's a 10% jump. Now, 6.5% of that goes directly toward funding the construction of that very first treatment plant.
Okay.
And the other 3.5% covers inflation and, just keeping the current water system running smoothly.
Right, all the maintenance and stuff.
Exactly.
So if someone's water bill is, let's say, $50 a quarter right now, they could be looking at around $55 come January?
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay.
But here's the catch.
Oh.
That's just the first increase.
Oh, no.
There's another one coming in July 2025.
Okay, and that one is still to be determined.
Right, exactly. The exact amount will depend on how much those construction projects end up costing.
Yeah.
And if the city can snag some additional funding.
Right.
But early estimates suggest it could be significant.
Okay, so that's like a lot of uncertainty for residents as they're trying to plan their budgets.
Yeah.
So what is the city doing to try and ease that financial burden?
Well, the good news is they're actively hunting down alternative funding options. They're looking at state and federal grants and even exploring tapping into that big 3M settlement.
Oh, right, the one related to PFAS contamination.
Yeah, in the East Metro.
Right, yeah, that settlement's been in the news a lot lately.
Yeah.
How much could Hastings potentially receive from that?
We're talking around $14 million.
Wow, that's...
Yeah, that could be a real game changer.
Yeah.
Help to offset the costs of those new plants and hopefully lessen the impact on residents' wallets.
That would be huge.
It would.
But let's face it, there's always a chance those funding efforts might fall short.
Right.
What's the worst-case scenario if they don't secure enough external funding?
Well, in that case, the financial impact on residents could be pretty substantial.
Right.
We're talking rates potentially doubling in the next 3 years.
Wow.
And even tripling within 5 years.
Triple.
Yeah, and here's the kicker. Those elevated rates could stick around for the next 25 years.
25 years.
Yeah.
That's a lot for people to absorb, especially over such a long period.
Absolutely. It's a major financial commitment, but it's important to remember these are preliminary estimates.
Okay.
And a lot can change depending on construction costs, if they get additional funding,
Right.
other factors down the road.
So we're talking about a long-term financial commitment here.
Yeah.
What about residents who might be struggling to keep up with these potential increases? What resources are available to them?
Well, thankfully, there are a number of local organizations that are ready to help.
Okay.
Hastings Family Service and Dakota County Assistance, they both offer various forms of aid to those facing financial difficulties.
Okay.
Even some local churches have programs to support those in need.
And it's good to know that that safety net is there.
It is.
And I'm sure the city has, more detailed information about bill payment options and assistance programs, too.
You bet. Residents can head to the city's website for all those details.
Perfect, and we'll make sure to include that link in the show notes for everyone. So we've covered the why behind these rate increases and the potential financial burden. Now let's shift gears and talk about what residents can actually do to take control and maybe even save some money.
Okay, sounds good.
So knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely.
And one of the best ways to manage those rising water costs is to, get smart about your water usage.
Mm-hmm.
And the city has put together some really practical conservation tips that can make a difference, both to the environment and your bank account.
Yeah, that's a win-win.
I love practical tips, so give us some examples.
Okay.
What are we talking about here?
Well, it all starts with becoming a leak detective.
A leak detector.
Yes. Okay. So check your faucets, toilets, water softener,
Uh-huh.
even your irrigation system for any signs of leaks.
Okay.
A simple test with food coloring in your toilet tank can reveal a lot.
Really?
Yeah, just add a few drops and wait about 10 minutes.
Okay.
If that color makes its way into the bowl, you've got a leak.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
Like a little science experiment.
Yeah, and easy to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And those little leaks can waste a surprising amount of water.
Okay.
Another simple fix is replacing a leaky toilet flapper.
Well.
That alone can save you, get this, 180 gallons of water each week.
180 gallons. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Oh.
And if you're looking for a more long-term solution, think about swapping out those old, inefficient toilets with WaterSense labeled models.
Okay, what's a WaterSense labeled model?
It's basically a label given to plumbing fixtures that meet certain water efficiency standards set by the EPA.
Okay.
So you're getting a product that will help you save water without sacrificing performance.
So checking for leaks, replacing flappers, upgrading toilets. What else can we do?
Well, think about your showering habits.
Okay.
Installing low-flow shower heads can really cut down on water use.
Makes sense.
And believe it or not, using your dishwasher is actually more water efficient than washing dishes by hand, especially when you only run it with full loads.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Any outdoor water-saving tips?
Yeah, what about the yard?
Yeah, so water your lawn during the cooler parts of the day, like early morning or evening.
Okay.
This helps prevent evaporation and ensures the water actually reaches your plants.
Good point.
And this one might seem obvious,
Okay.
but signing up for the city's auto pay for your water bill,
Oh, yeah.
it can not only save you stress, but also help you avoid those pesky late payment charges.
Right, auto pay is great.
It
Just set it and forget it.
Exactly.
So many great tips, and, little changes can really add up.
They do.
And you're right, auto pay is a great way to, stay on top of bills and avoid those unnecessary fees.
Absolutely. It's all about being proactive and informed.
So far we've focused on the reasons behind these water rate hikes and, what they could mean for your budget.
Mm-hmm.
And we've explored some ways to take control by, conserving water and saving money in the process. Yeah. But I think it's important to circle back and connect all of this to the initial trigger.
You mean the EPA's new PFAS regulations?
Exactly, because it's easy to get lost in the details of water bills and construction projects.
It is.
But at the core of this issue is a major environmental concern.
Mm-hmm.
The presence of these harmful, forever chemicals in our water supply.
It's a big deal.
It is, yeah. And the EPA's decision to lower the acceptable levels of PFAS comes from, a growing body of scientific evidence about the potential health risks associated with these chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
And while complying with these new standards is expensive, it's ultimately about protecting public health and ensuring we have safe drinking water for the long haul.
It's a classic example of balancing immediate costs with long-term well-being.
It really is. And it raises some thought-provoking questions about who's responsible for tackling these kinds of environmental challenges.
It does, yeah. It really highlights the interconnectedness of everything, right?
Yeah, it does.
Like we make choices as individuals.
Right.
But those choices are often, shaped by larger systems and regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And those larger systems are impacted by our collective actions.
Yeah, it's like a domino effect.
Exactly.
So let's talk about those health risks a bit.
Okay.
You mentioned PFAS being linked to some pretty serious health problems.
Yeah.
What are we talking about specifically?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. And Also a bit concerning.
Okay.
Studies have linked PFAS exposure to, a bunch of different health issues, including certain types of cancer,
I will.
immune deficiencies,
Good.
liver damage, and developmental problems in children.
Yeah, that's really serious.
And the scary part is these chemicals, they can accumulate in our bodies over time.
Right.
So even low levels of exposure can have a, cumulative effect.
That's really scary.
It is.
So these new EPA regulations, they're trying to protect us from those long-term health impacts, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm curious, like, how did these PFAS even get into our water in the first place?
So it's a bit of a detective story.
Okay.
PFAS have been used in a bunch of different things, like industrial products, consumer products for decades.
Okay.
Everything from firefighting foam to nonstick cookware to stain-resistant fabrics.
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, so over time, those chemicals, they've found their way into the environment.
Yeah.
They leach into groundwater and contaminate water sources.
It's kind of mind-blowing to think about, like, how these everyday products can have such a widespread impact on the environment. Yeah.
And it makes this whole situation with the treatment plants even more critical, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about meeting some regulations. It's about safeguarding our health.
Yeah.
Those treatment plants, they represent a major investment in public health.
Yeah.
And it's not just about removing PFAS, right? It's about ensuring the water that, comes out of our taps is clean and safe and meets, the highest standards.
Yeah, you're right. We often take clean water for granted.
We do.
But it's essential for life, and protecting that resource is vital.
Absolutely.
You touched on a point that I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
Hastings is facing this tough situation, but it feels like this goes beyond just one city.
Yeah.
We're hearing more and more about PFAS contamination all over the place.
Yeah.
Is this a growing problem?
Absolutely. The more we learn about PFAS and how persistent they are in the environment, the more we realize, like, the extent of the contamination. It's not just a local issue, it's global.
Yeah.
These chemicals have been found in water all over the world.
Wow.
And the challenge of, removing them is something that communities all over are grappling with.
It's a little bit sobering to think about, but it also highlights how important what Hastings is doing is, right?
Yes.
They're taking these proactive steps to address it and invest in the long-term health of their residents.
Exactly. And their efforts can serve as a model for other communities facing similar challenges. By tackling this head on, Hastings is demonstrating a real commitment to public health and environmental responsibility.
So we've talked about the health risks, how they get into the water, the role of those new treatment plants. But I want to circle back to something you said earlier, this idea of balancing the costs with long-term well-being.
Right.
It seems like a delicate balancing act.
It is, and it raises some interesting questions about resource allocation. How do we prioritize spending when it comes to environmental protection and public health? Where do we draw the line between, affordability and ensuring that everyone has access to safe drinking water?
Yeah, these are questions that go way beyond just water rates.
Yeah.
That touch on, like, broader societal values and priorities.
Exactly. And they're questions that we need to be having as a community. How much are we willing to invest in safeguarding our health and protecting our environment for future generations?
It's a conversation that needs to happen at all levels,
It does.
from local communities to state and federal governments.
Absolutely.
And it's a conversation that we can all participate in.
We can.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about what's happening in Hastings right now.
All right.
You mentioned that the city is exploring some different options to mitigate the costs of these new plants.
Yeah.
Could you give us some specifics about what they're doing?
Yeah, so they're being really proactive.
Okay.
They're pursuing both state and federal grants that are specifically designed to help communities deal with PFAS contamination. These grants can provide, some significant financial relief. And hopefully help offset the burden on residents.
Yeah, those grants could be a game changer, couldn't they?
They really could.
Yeah.
Securing those grants could potentially reduce the need for these drastic rate increases. And, make this whole project more manageable.
Sure.
They're also looking at some long-term financing options that could, spread the costs over a longer period
Right.
and hopefully ease the immediate financial burden on residents.
So it sounds like they're really exploring every option.
They are.
Are they also engaging with the community throughout this process?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
They're holding published meetings to keep residents informed about the project's progress, the cost involved,
Okay.
and the options that they're considering.
Yeah, that's a great way to foster transparency
It is.
and allow residents to ask questions and voice concerns.
Absolutely. Transparency builds trust, right?
Yeah.
And it helps residents feel like they're part of the solution.
Right, not just on the receiving end.
Exactly.
They've also launched a public education campaign
Okay.
to raise awareness about PFAS,
Mhm.
the health risks,
Right.
and what residents can do to conserve water
Right.
and minimize their exposure.
I love that because education empowers people
It does.
to take ownership of the situation,
Right.
make informed choices.
It shifts the narrative from, feeling helpless
Right.
to feeling empowered,
Yeah, exactly.
and it helps build a sense of community ownership and
Mhm.
shared responsibility.
So everyone has a role to play in addressing this. And an informed community is a powerful force for
Absolutely.
positive change.
So for those residents who might be feeling overwhelmed
Yeah.
or anxious about these rate increases,
What's your advice?
first and foremost, stay informed,
Okay.
attend the public meetings,
Mm-hmm.
visit the city's website, follow their social media channels for updates. Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And understanding the situation is the first step in, navigating it effectively.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to reach out to your city officials with your questions and concerns.
Right.
They're there to represent you
Yeah.
and address your needs.
So it's about being proactive and engaging in the process.
Exactly. And remember, you're not alone in this.
Right.
This is a challenge that many communities are facing.
Yeah.
And there are resources and support systems available to help you, navigate the financial aspects and make informed decisions.
So while this might feel daunting, there's a lot happening behind the scenes
There is.
to mitigate the impact and find solutions that work for everyone.
It's about working together as a community to ensure we all have access to clean, safe water,
Yeah.
for generations to come.
I love that message of shared responsibility.
Yeah. And collective action.
It's a reminder that even when we're facing, these complex challenges,
Right.
we can find solutions that benefit both, our individual well-being and the health of our planet.
I'm curious, beyond the practical steps of attending meetings and staying informed,
Yeah.
what can residents do to feel more empowered in this situation?
That's a great question. I think one of the most empowering things we can do is to shift our perspective
Okay.
from feeling like victims to
Right.
feeling like active participants in creating solutions.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
How can we actually do that?
Well, it starts with recognizing that that even small individual actions can have a ripple effect.
Okay.
Those water conservation tips we talked about earlier, they're not just about, saving money on our water bills. They're about reducing the strain on our water systems,
Right.
conserving a precious resource, and contributing to a more sustainable future.
So it's about seeing ourselves as part of this larger ecosystem, not just individuals, dealing with some personal challenge.
Exactly. When we view our actions through that lens,
Right.
we realize that we have more power than we think.
Mhm.
We can choose to be, conscious consumers.
Okay.
We can support businesses that prioritize sustainability,
Right.
and we can advocate for policies that protect our environment.
It's about recognizing that collective action starts with individual choices.
Absolutely.
And those choices, when they're multiplied across a community, can create a really powerful force for change.
It's about reclaiming our agency, right?
Yeah.
And realizing that we have the power to shape the future we want to see.
It's an inspiring message, and it's so relevant to what's happening in Hastings.
It is.
Their situation is kind of a microcosm of these larger challenges
Yeah.
that we're facing as a society.
We are.
But it's also a testament to the power of community engagement
It is.
and the potential for positive change.
I agree. Hastings is showing us that even when we're faced with, complex environmental issues and these tough financial decisions, there's hope.
There is.
There's a path forward that involves collaboration, innovation, and a shared commitment to creating a healthier, more sustainable future.
And that path starts with each of us recognizing our own power
It does.
to make a difference.
Well said. It's about realizing that we're not just passengers on this journey.
Right.
We're all co-creators of the world we want to live in.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave our listeners with a thought to ponder.
Okay.
What choices can you make today in your own life
Yeah.
that contribute to a more sustainable future?
It's a question worth asking ourselves every day, because those answers, no matter how small they may seem, hold the key to a brighter future for all of us.
Yeah, those are powerful words to carry with us.
They are.
And it brings us back to the situation in Hastings. We've talked about all the challenges, the potential costs, and the efforts to mitigate those costs.
Right.
But I'm wondering, beyond the financial aspects of it all,
Yeah.
what are the long-term implications of this issue, for the residents of Hastings?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
And I think it goes beyond just Hastings.
Okay.
This situation, it's kind of a wake-up call for all of us.
Yeah.
It highlights how interconnected everything is, our choices, our environment, and our health.
Yeah.
And it forces us to confront the reality that, environmental issues have real-world consequences that extend far beyond just the immediate costs.
It's a reminder that we can't just ignore these problems.
Nope.
Or hope they'll go away on their own.
Right.
We have to be proactive and engaged in finding solutions.
Exactly. And those solutions, they require a multifaceted approach.
Okay.
It's about individuals making conscious choices, communities coming together to advocate for change,
Right.
and governments implementing policies that protect our environment and safeguard public health.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together.
Absolutely. And Hastings is showing us that it's possible to face these challenges head on and emerge stronger.
Yeah.
They're demonstrating the power of community engagement, the importance of transparency,
Right.
and the potential for innovation in finding solutions.
They're setting an example for other communities
Here you are.
who are facing similar issues.
And I think their story offers a sense of hope.
Okay.
It reminds us that we have the power to shape the future that we want to see. It's not about feeling overwhelmed or powerless. It's about recognizing our collective agency and taking action step by step to create a healthier, more sustainable world.
So for our listeners in Hastings, as you navigate this situation, just remember, you're not alone. The city is working hard to find solutions.
Yeah.
And there are resources available to support you. Stay informed.
Yes.
Engage in the process.
Absolutely.
And know that that your voice matters.
It does.
And for those of you listening outside of Hastings, take this as a reminder to learn about the water issues in your own community.
Yeah.
Are there similar challenges on the horizon?
Right.
What steps can you take to conserve water, advocate for change, and protect this precious resource?
It's up to all of us.
We all have a role to play in creating a future
We do.
where clean, safe water is a right,
Yeah.
not a privilege.
Well said.
So let's remember that every drop counts,
Every drop.
and every action we take, no matter how small it may seem,
Right.
can contribute to a more sustainable future for all.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Hastings water situation.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a thought-provoking conversation,
It has.
and we hope it's empowered you to learn more, engage in your community, and make informed choices that benefit both your well-being
Yeah.
and the health of our planet.
Absolutely.
Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and let's keep diving deep into the issues that matter.
This sounds good.